Hi, and welcome to the Everything Voiceovers podcast. I am T-Code, an African voiceover talent from Nigeria, and this is my podcast where I take on voiceover topics from an African perspective. On this solo episode of the podcast, I talk about 6 things you need to know before starting a voiceover career in Nigeria. Sit back and enjoy this episode. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast. I'm T-Code, your host, and this is the episode 17 of the podcast, Everything Voiceovers, the African Perspective. I'm super duper excited to be here again, and today it's gonna be a solo podcast. Yes, I'll be doing this alone, but then I have a very interesting topic I'd like to discuss or, talk about. It's not a discussion because it's just me. But then I'm talking to you. So I'll be talking about 6 things I think it's important for you to know before starting your voiceover career or before getting into voiceovers. And the reason why I'm doing this is that I've had over time a lot of people pop into my DM and they ask questions and I'm like, oh, if you're a voice actor, I thought this is something you should know or something you should be prepared to deal with. But then I realized that a lot of people are tripping into the industry without having enough knowledge about what it takes to be a voice talent in Nigeria. So these tips are going to be very relatable to mostly Nigerians. But however, if you're in the continent, of course, you can learn 1 or 2 things from the things I'm going to be listing today on this episode. So about 6 things that you should know or you need to know before starting your voiceover career. So I'm going to make this as brief as possible. I have them listed and I'll start from the first thing. Before you get into voiceovers in Nigeria, first of all, know that voiceover is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not one of those industries that you get into hoping to get rich all of a sudden. No, it doesn't work like that. Because even those who are full-time voice actors or even part-time voice actors are still trying to find a way to make money off it. Our industry here in Nigeria is still in the formative stages. Yes, it looks like we have the hype. It looks like things are happening. There are conferences here and there. There are institutions of learning. But to be honest, it's not as rosy as it looks. A lot of people are still struggling to make good money from voiceovers in Nigeria. So if you're coming into voiceovers, this is not to discourage you, but for you to know that you got to be ready to put in the efforts, to put in the work. It doesn't come easy. And to be very fair and honest, it's the same thing I think for most industries. You don't just start something and all of a sudden you expect to start making money off that career or that train of investment in the soonest time possible. You need to invest. You need to put in time, effort, money into whatever it is that you're doing, and you'll start seeing some rewards for that. So voiceovers is not a quick get-rich-quick scheme. Also, to complement this point that I just made is for you to understand that getting into voiceovers, you should have an idea of what the voiceover business entails so that you understand that, you need to put in this and this and this and this into it, network with certain folks in the industry, or kind of have an idea of how they operate their business. If you need to, enroll for training or something, these are things that you need to do to make sure that you have a solid voiceover career. I don't know if there's anything as such. There is something as a solid voiceover career. Another thing that I would like you to pay attention to is that to practice as a voiceover artist in Nigeria, you either need to own a home studio or you work with a professional studio. For me, these are the 2 most recommended advice I can give you, or things that I think you should know before you get into voiceovers. Don't just jump into voiceovers, recording with your phone and thinking that that's how it works. It doesn't work that way. I've seen it over and over and over again. New talents using their phones to record and thinking that that's how it's going to be for clients. And they just, sit somewhere quiet and record something on their phones and send it to a client. It doesn't work that way. If you're doing it, stop that today. Now, I'm not saying you should stop if you're trying to use that as a rehearsal device, right? You want to rehearse. You could take your phone, you could record something, but if you're going to be working for a client, I don't recommend that, right? So you need to look for a recording studio close to you that you can trust to help you edit, produce, record your voice, and you get the finished work to the client. But if you're going to be working on your own, like I am doing, I own a home studio, you need to be able to set up your own home studio. Now, there's a lot to setting up home studios, which I cannot cover in this episode. I'm going to create another episode where I'll be talking about home studio setups and the devices that you need to have to set them up. But just for the record, or for the sake of information, the important things you need to understand about building a home studio is that before you even start at all, do a ton of research about the kind of devices you need to use and the acoustics of the place, the location, the spot in your house that you'll be using for a home studio. Because no matter how good the microphone that you buy is, if you do not have a sound treated room or studio, you will have a poor production or poor output. So do your research. You'll be needing your microphone, you'll be needing a computer, either a laptop or a PC, or a desktop computer. You'll be needing your monitors, you'll be needing your headphones, you'll be needing an audio interface or sound card. And if you're using an XLR microphone, you also have to understand the difference between a condenser and a dynamic microphone. I would always recommend a condenser microphone for voice talent. And all of these things, you need to do your research. So one of these days, we'll do an episode talking about these devices. And if you want to get some of the devices or you need some advice on which to get, you can always reach us at Coded Voiceovers. Just send an email to codedvoiceovers@gmail.com or get into our DM on Instagram at Coded Voiceovers. And we sell these equipment. We could get it for you. The most recommended at the best prices. You can get them in Nigeria. In any part of Nigeria, it's going to be delivered to you. So another thing you need to know if you're going to be getting into voiceovers in Nigeria is that you need to have some knowledge about the voiceover industry, right? You don't just get into an industry without understanding what obtains in the industry. I know some people would like to go the international route by taking or by registering, signing up with pay-to-play sites, the Fivers, the Voices.com, the Voices 123. But if you really want to practice in Nigeria, you need to understand the dynamics of how it works. Let me give you an instance. Some years back, I was working not in Lagos. I was working in another state in the Southwest, and the average amount that voice talents charge in that region is 10,000 naira. At the time, that was what I thought was, the appropriate amount or the average amount that voice actors in Nigeria were charging, until I further went to learn more about the industry, and I realized that it's somewhere around 50,000 naira for a radio commercial of less than 60 seconds or 60 seconds. And then, I began to upgrade my mind, also understood better how to deal with clients. This is just one of the many things you need to understand about the industry. How do the rates work? How to deal with customers? And my tip for you to get to understand the Nigerian voiceover industry is for you to find a community to belong to, a voiceover community to belong to, right? Or you rather network with people in the voiceover business. I would recommend a couple of places or a couple of events or communities that you can be a part of. You can start off with training, right? And there are places that you can train, which leads me to my fourth point. But before I even get into my fourth point, I'm just going to mention spots or key players in the industry that you can associate with. So we have the Voiceover Academy, we have the Voiceover Workshop, we have Kickstarts interviews, we have the Voiceover Bootcamp. I think there are a couple of others that I have not mentioned, but not so much. The thing about all this institutions that I've mentioned is that they are voiceover learning institutions in Nigeria. So whichever one you want to pick, you get to learn voiceovers from those institutions. The good thing about them is that after you're done, they add you to some sort of community, either on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Telegram, or I don't know, maybe on Twitter, on Clubhouse. You get to learn from them, and then you're added to the community so you can network with fellow voice actors like you and get to ask questions. You get feedbacks from them. You get involved, or you get informed with things that are happening in the industry. So these are platforms that you can associate with. That's the Voiceover Workshop, the Voiceover Academy, Kickstart into VOs, Voiceover Bootcamp, and a couple of them, you can check them online. Also, there are certain conferences that you can get information about the voiceover industry. We have the VO Africa Conference and the Voiceover Conference. Both are organized by Nigerians and Nigerian voiceover companies, and they're annually. So you can look out for them and anticipate to be a part of the next Voiceover Conference, these conferences that I just listed that happens in Nigeria. Another place that you can network and be a part of the community is on Clubhouse. So, two of the most active voiceover platforms on Clubhouse that I would always recommend any day, anytime is the Voiceover Workshop Alumni Network on Clubhouse. You can find that. Just go to the Voiceover Workshop on Clubhouse. There are series of voiceover conversations that we've held in the past. You can listen to them. It contains information about the voiceover industry in Nigeria and getting better as a voice actor. Then the second one is Voice Acting Africa. Voice Acting Africa is a platform by Remi Olutimai. He's been on this podcast in the second episode. You can enjoy that. And it's a platform that contains African talents from across the continent, and we get to discuss about voiceover related activities weekly, and you can check that out as well. These sessions have been recorded so you can listen to these interesting conversations and get to learn about the industry. Voice Acting Africa also has a Telegram platform, so you can go check that out on Telegram, Voice Acting Africa, and you be a part of that. Well, I also forgot to mention there is ABVA, that's the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Actors. I'm a part of ABVA. I'm a part of most of these communities that I've mentioned, all right? So you can be a part of ABVA, join the association and get information, resources that would help you to get your voiceover career, in a better shape with time. So that's what ABVA is committed to doing for voice actors. We send resources from time to time to help voice actors navigate their path in the industry. There's also AVOA, which is the Association of Voiceover Artists of Nigeria. AVOA still has a couple of things that they're working on, but it's okay if you want to be a part of the community or the association. You can be a part of the association, and with time, you get to understand and get to learn one or two things that is happening there and they have in stock for voice talent. So that's my advice about how you can get to be, or how you can find knowledge about the voiceover industry, because it's very important, very crucial for you to know about the industry. Now, the fourth thing I was going to go to is enrolling or signing up for voiceover institutions. Well, that's really important, but then I have to also say that it doesn't guarantee your success as a voice talent. It's something that I always wish newbies or new voice talents understand. I've seen people come to learn about voiceovers, and in a few weeks and months that they expect to see staggering results, they don't see it, and then they are disappointed. Some people think that they've been scammed, but the truth is, it's not the case. The institutions of voiceovers that we have, from the best of my knowledge, they can only go as far as giving you the required information to establish yourself in the industry. I say that again, the required information. What you do with the information is what matters, not exactly what you hear or what you get or what you learn from these institutions. So you can have an array of coaches come from time to time according as planned by the institution to teach you certain topics about voiceovers, right? But if you don't make use of those things, you are not going to go far in the industry. It doesn't guarantee your success. Even people that makes use of these principles that they've been taught in this industry, in these institutions, they still struggle to find the results. And it's not like the results would not show, but results and success in voiceovers takes a lot of time, hard work, and consistency. So it's one thing for you to use the results or to use rather the information that you gather from these institutions. It's another thing for you to be consistent in applying this information and making them a part of your daily life. So again, enroll, sign up, but it doesn't guarantee your success. Apart from just signing up with these institutions, personally, I think it's also, I have a bias anyway, and my bias is towards signing up with a coach to be trained one-on-one. I kind of think that is more effective, and the reason is because the attention that a coach will give to you is more than the attention that you'll get when you're in a class with about 20 students, for instance, and you have one person teaching all of you in the space of 2 to 4 hours. You may not have that individual attention as to understanding your vocal uniqueness and how you can apply yourself better. So while it's good for you to enroll in one of these institutions and get trained via some of the courses that they provide, it's also important, I think, and I think more effective, to have a coach that will train you one-on-one. Interesting, or the good thing about it is that most of those institutions, most of the coaches or the facilitators in those courses, they also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you attend the institution and you listen to the coaches, you can tell, oh, you probably work better with this particular person, and you can approach the coach or the facilitator and ask about their coaching programs if they have, because not everybody is ready to coach people one-on-one. It could be time consuming, and from experience, it is also more expensive than the general courses. So it's your call, but that's my advice to you.
Hey guys, so here's a quick commercial. Well, if you're in Nigeria and you're probably just starting voiceovers or wanting to get into voiceovers, or you're already doing voiceovers, but you need the right quality audio equipment, mics, monitors, headphones, audio interfaces, and so on, Coded Voiceovers is the plug for you. We consult, sell, and distribute quality audio across Nigeria at the best prices. If you want to make a purchase or find out more, send a mail to codedvoiceovers@gmail.com or a WhatsApp message to +234 906 087 8154, +234 906 087 8154, or just send a DM to us on Instagram at Coded Voiceovers. And the best part is, wherever you are in Nigeria, you'll get your gears delivered to you in less than a week. Alright, so let's get back to the podcast.
The fifth thing that I'd like you to know if you want to start a voiceover career in Nigeria is that you should be ready to invest, okay? It's a good thing that I've talked about owning a home studio. I've talked about learning, because actually learning ought to come before investing. Oh, okay, learning is a type of investment too. But okay, let me break it down a little bit. So for you to even learn about the industry, if you're going to be enrolling for training or coaching, you need to invest in that regard. But some people are able to also learn via the internet, because there are lots of things you can learn on the internet. Like, for instance, this podcast helps you to understand the industry. So it's a good place to learn consistently every week, via the episodes that we treat different voiceover related topics on this podcast. And there are a few other podcasts about voiceovers that you can learn from, right? You can also learn from following certain voice actors in the industry. Look at what they're doing, check their pages, right? Follow them, and you can also learn from the communities that I mentioned, from the conferences. Those are ways to really learn without really spending money. But really, you need to be able to invest. You should actually spend money, right, on training, and find good mentors to train you, find good academies to teach you on voiceovers. Oh, I forgot to mention. Oh, yeah, I already did mention anyway. the places that you can learn voiceovers. I mentioned a couple of them. I'll put the links in the description of this episode, and so you can check them out and find out what's happening over there. So again, I'm talking about investing in voiceovers. So you're going to be investing in learning. You're also going to be investing in voiceover gears, the microphones. For some people, they think microphones are supposed to be cheap. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but they are not cheap. In Nigeria, you're not going to be, if you're going to be getting a good microphone, be ready to spend, did I say good? Okay, an entry-level microphone, be ready to spend close to 100,000 naira. Yes, it's arguable that you can find 50,000 naira thereabout, but between 50,000 to 100,000 naira is entry level. In fact, 100,000 to 150,000 naira is a bit above entry level to average, sounding microphone. I don't have the time to go into the details of the pricing and all of that. If you want to get microphones, again, head on to Coded Voiceovers, where we can give you all of that information. So be ready to invest in gears. You're not just going to be buying a microphone. Like I said earlier, you're going to be buying a microphone, a headphone. You're going to be buying audio interface. You have to have a computer, your recording space. All of this are going to take you or cost you money. And aside the gear, you also want to set up your business. You want to have, if you're going to be registering your business. You see, the thing again is that it's gradual, right? You don't rush into it. So you take your time, you invest in your gears. You're also going to be investing in setting up your business in a way that is respectable. I put up a quote some weeks ago. I said, voiceover is not a hobby. It is a business. It's really important for you to handle your business as a business, right? So a few things go into business like branding, right? And branding is not free, neither is it cheap. So you need to plan, you need to budget, you need to spend, you need to train, you need to upgrade, and all of this obviously costs money. The last thing I would like to add to this, or the sixth thing I'd like you to know before starting your voiceover business in Nigeria or career, is that all of these things that I've mentioned, even when you apply them to your voiceover business, it takes time before you start to see the impact or the effect. If you train, if you invest with your money, if you belong to communities, all of those things, you can do them, but the reward doesn't come immediately. You need to give yourself time to grow. You need to give yourself time to evolve. There are certain things about your voice that you're not going to discover even in the first 1 year of being a voice actor, even in the first 2 years. Some of us have been doing this for quite a while, and we're just discovering certain things about our voices. So you need to give yourself, you need to give your voice, you need to give your career the time, and you need to be patient a bit. Yeah, you need to be patient. You need to be easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself too hard. And that's why it's not advisable to quit your job and you say you want to go into voiceovers full time. You need some sort of sustenance to keep the flow going. So it takes time, even when you're investing, right? Okay, so I think this is all I'll be able to tell you for today. 6 things rather, that you need to know before you get into voiceovers in Nigeria. Understand that voiceover is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you want to practice voiceovers in Nigeria, have a production studio or your own home studio. You should also have a good knowledge about the industry. Also enroll for classes, but be assured that it doesn't guarantee success. You should also be ready to invest, and finally, understand that success in voiceovers takes time. I hope I've been able to say some meaningful things to you in this episode. Thank you for listening to me. I'm excited about this episode. It's my second solo episode. The first solo episode was the first episode, and I think I'm going to be doing this often these days. All right, guys. So thank you very much for listening. I would say keep learning, keep investing, and keep winning. I'd like to get your feedback. You can send feedback to me via everythingvoiceovers@gmail.com. Also give this podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify. It'll be very, very helpful. I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, Bye! If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell someone about it. Follow the podcast on Everything VOs on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening and see you on the next episode. This podcast is a Coded Voiceovers production.